On Hulu, I caught from 1979 the James Bond movie Moonraker. I'm going to try to keep this one brief. I know that this is not a particularly well-liked Bond film. It is one of the lessers. And in a lot of ways, I feel like it is The Spy Who Loved Me all over again. Spy Who Loved Me. He's got a Russian agent he has to work with. Moonraker, CIA. Bad guy in Spy Who Loves Me wants to take out the world through nukes and then live underwater. Bad guy in Moonraker wants to poison people with capsules fired from space that contain orchids that will somehow take out 100 million people apiece, shit you not, and then have everybody live in space until the population dies off and then they head back to Earth. This was put into production because Star Wars was a huge hit. So they had to they were going to do For Your Eyes Only, but they kicked this one in first to try to ride the Star Wars craze. So you have Bond in space. There's laser battles. There's a bunch of nonsense. Jaws returns. I gotta say that at the start of the movie, the cold opening bit, Bond is doing some stuff, and then he has to jump out of a plane. But Jaws pursues him on the way down. There's one parachute they're fighting over. Bond kicks him away. Jaws falls into a circus tent. And then you start a theme song, which is forgettable. But kudos on that skydiving sequence. By my understanding, it took 88 jumps to film this 2-minute sequence. Do they even bother with this today? No, they don't. And there are so many amazing practical sets in this movie that are there for just a few seconds that they wouldn't even bother with today. Everything would just be CGI. Get in front of a green screen, we'll blow some wind on you, you're free falling. We'll do it in post. Let's be lazy. Let's be lazy and charge more money for the movie. And that's how they do shit today. And I feel like, that's cheap. But kudos to the action and the set design here, despite being the same movie again. It's watchable. There's a weird moment where Jaws, he's after Bond and the CIA agent, Goodhead, I think is her name. And he's got this circumstance where he's beat up Bond's foiled Jaws' attempt to kill them on cable cars in Brazil. There's so much jet setting this, it's so convoluted and stuff. How Bond even got involved in this, it's there's a space shuttle that gets stolen. It's why'd you need to build them? You're the guy who builds them, why'd you need to steal it? Oh, but he needed another one because there was a test problem wrong with one of his, and that'll set back his operation. But there's this part where Jaws he meets his lover, this girl with pigtails, looks at him, they look at each other, and then love thing, na 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 na. And people recall her having braces, and him having the metal teeth, and it's hey, you're like me, love at first sight. The joke works that way, but the reality is she doesn't have braces. There are people who swear that this is an example of the Mandela effect, that the Large Hadron Collider has put us in an alternate universe where some of the details are off, and a few of us have noticed. I asked my dad, hey, did she have braces? Yeah, I think she did have braces. The joke works if she has braces, it doesn't if she doesn't, and supposedly she never did. Think what you will. Towards the beginning of the movie, there's a dumb part where Bond is exploring the facility of Drax, the bad guy here. French actor, I didn't really realize he was French. I know he's the good guy in The Day of the Jackal, where all these French people sound English. But, anyways, he goes and explores his testing facility for his astronauts. Goodnight's hey, why don't you get in this G-force training shit? Why not? And it's well, I can give you some reasons why. How about you're not training to be an astronaut? And this goes on to happen only so that Bond can show off a new Q gadget. risk shooting dart stuff to get out of this. Bond has to investigate stuff in Vienna because there's a glass company tied to this. This is where he's making his orbs. Goes into like the Amazon because there's orchids. And then from there they go into space. But in space it's revealed that only the desirables are going to be alive, and so Bond's like, hey, Jaws, you and your girlfriend don't really fit in here, help us out. So they help start the riot aboard the ship. The US quickly as hell scrambles a space shuttle in record ass time. No mission prep whatsoever when they find out about this space station, the evil space station. And they have like Marines on board with lasers and shit, and they just go off into space and they fire lasers. And a lot of it looks bad because despite being newer than Star Wars, it's using older antiquated systems. It doesn't have the blue screen with the camera rotating to give the shuttle the motion. It has less defined motion. It looks more like a Star Trek episode from the 60s. And you have just a whole bunch of guys suspended on strings in space shooting and shit. And it's pretty grisly, the amount of guys getting wiped out here. Well, Bond takes out the villain using his wrist shooting shit, blows him into space. The place is going up. Jaws helps him escape. And it's revealed that a big guy and a little girl were among those picked up by NASA. So they got away, and they're living happily ever after. A Bond henchman turns good, helps him, and lives. And Bond, on getting back in, he's in space, he's floating down or whatever. He took out these orbs, save the world. It's not a very exciting scene taking out these orbs of orchids that no one believes are as potent as they say they are. So he takes it out with Goodnight, or whatever the hell her name is, Goodhead. And then he's hooking up with her. Q spies on him, just like at the end of the last movie. Oh, I believe he's attempting re-entry, sir. Moonraker. 2 out of 4 stars.